Welcome back, everybody, to the Orange Bloods YouTube channel. I'm Jason Suchomel, joined by my sidekick, Cole Patterson. We're back for another week to talk about recruiting. And man, Cole, if we did one of these last Tuesday, so it's exactly a week later, it feels like it's been 2 or 3 weeks, dude. You had a holiday going on with Thanksgiving, of course, and B, there's been a lot of action in terms of decommitments, 3 decommitments, new commitments, new offers. I think I jinxed myself or jinxed us on our modcast. Me and Jeff Ketchum and a couple other Orange Bloods guys recorded last week. I think it was on Wednesday. And I said, I love Thanksgiving, man. It's always a slow time. And I get to hang out with my family. I don't get to see them a lot. My brother and his kids come in and his wife. And sure enough, man, that morning, Texas gets a commitment that morning and they get a decommitment that afternoon. So thankfully, I had my laptop with me at my parents' house because I pretty much take my laptop anywhere I go because you never know when the hell it works.
Nowadays.
Exactly. I mean, phones are great too, but it's a lot easier to work on the laptop. So we'll get into some of that, but I'm going to start with the freshest news, and Texas fans may want to hit fast forward and skip about 5 minutes ahead on this, but it's a topic we have to address. Texas misses out on a huge prospect in Evan Stewart, one of the top guys on their board, a guy who was a one-time Texas commitment. That hurts when you miss out on him. Hurts even more when he commits to Texas A&M. Kind of at random on a Monday night. I mean, I think a lot of people thought it was trending that way. I talked to some A&M people today, A&M colleagues or reporting colleagues. Nobody was surprised that he committed to A&M, but people were surprised at the timing. It just happened out of the blue. But Evan's kind of been a guy who flies by the seat of his pants, if you will. I mean, I'm sure he puts more thought into it than I'm giving him credit for, but he's never had like a laid out plan. Like, I'm going to make an announcement this time. Be ready. So your eyes, Evan Stewart, 5-star wide receiver, commits to A&M, big loss for Texas. You know, how big of a hit are we talking here?
Yeah, like you said, it's not a huge shock that he's going to A&M. It's more of a big surprise, like you said, when he announced it. Like, I think I was, got on Twitter.
Yeah, you told me about it. You said, hey, Evan flipped. And what? I was like, where are you seeing this? Or not flipped, but committed. Yeah.
What he did was post a screenshot of his Instagram profile.
But you had to really pull it up and look at it. And you're like, oh, hell, up in the top corner, it says committed.
I saw a corner that it says A&M football on it. So I was like, wait, what? So I clicked on it and I saw the graphic in the screenshot, but it was like not the graphic itself. So it was weird. So I was like, wait, what? So I had to go check Instagram. So it was just weird. It didn't seem like, he's a big social media guy. He's got like millions of followers on TikTok. A lot of followers on Instagram, Twitter, all that. So you would think that, like you said, he would have a bigger plan or maybe a bigger announcement, but he is kind of an under the radar guy for the kind of caliber player he is. So it was kind of weird the way he announced it, when he announced it. It's a random Monday. But yeah, it's definitely a big loss for Texas, obviously. If we've kind of reported Orange Bloods this whole season, that Texas has really been selling the 2023 guys on coming in. Arch Manning, Jonte Cook, Ruben Owens coming in and playing with Xavier Worthy and Evan Stewart and those kind of guys. So you missing out on Stewart probably doesn't help with that plan, that recruiting pitch at all. Like you said, it doesn't help at all that he's going to A&M either. It might be a little bit of a softer blow if he was going to Alabama. You can't really blame him for going to Alabama. It's out of state. You don't play. I mean, they're on a schedule next year, but they're not really a rival, so to speak. So would have been a softer blow. But A&M, they had the recruiting momentum already. He's a guy that has a lot of influence with those other top prospects. And right when he announced it, you already saw Harold Perkins react to it. Cam Dewberry reacted to it. He's a guy that we were talking about, I guess, last week and week before, how Texas needed a guy that other prospects can hang their hat on and want to follow. And instead, one of those top guys commits to A&M, and might be the opposite for Texas. Everybody wants to go to A&M now. It's a huge loss from that standpoint. And we've talked about how Texas needs to add some guys in the transfer portal at wide receiver, some impact guys there. He would have been a guy that can start day one, opposite of Xavier Worthy. Texas needs some more explosive playmakers to go opposite of Worthy and let Sark's offense really open up. I think Sark did a really good job recruiting him, but it's kind of hard to sell guys on coming to a program that just won 5 games. Been a little not winning as much as you would like to over the past few years. It's a huge loss as far as where momentum goes, and just from an offensive standpoint for next year and beyond.
Yeah, it's a big loss. And if you're a Texas fan, you need to be worried about, does that spill over on guys like you mentioned, Cam Dewberry, Harold Perkins? I mean, these guys want to go where other great players are going. They want to go where they can see, okay, momentum's being built here. A&M has arguably they may finish with the top class or top 2 in the country. They've had top 5-ish classes the last few years. They played pretty well on the field this year, stumbled in a couple of games, but beat Alabama. I mean, you can see tangible evidence that A&M is building momentum. That's a big part of why Evan wanted to go there. You got to wonder how much of that will have an impact on some of these other players in the state. Hey, when I say news is coming in literally fast and furious, Texas just offered Ollie Gordon, running back out of Euless Trinity, Rivals 250 guy, who is committed to Oklahoma State. So, what's that?
I actually just saw him this past week. Against Allen in the playoffs. He's a really good player.
Yeah, so Texas just put an offer on him, so we'll have to follow up there. I mean, it literally just happened. We'll see what kind of impact that makes. So they miss on Evan Stewart. Let's just jump while we're pointing out some of the bad news of the last week. We'll talk about another decommitment. Armani Winfield decommits from wide receiver from Louisville, was committed. I think he might have been Texas's oldest or longest standing commitments. Ends up opening up his recruitment. Not a big surprise. I mean, he's taken official visits to LSU, to Oklahoma. To Michigan State. Why I said Oklahoma, I don't know. There's been a lot of Oklahoma talk this week. So LSU and Michigan State. He took an unofficial visit to Michigan State. Most people think that might be where he winds up. I saw someone say, hey, don't sleep on TCU, now that the fact that they've kind of got things settled in with their coaching staff. But still seems like Michigan State. The guy's been there twice this year, but that's a big loss too. Right? He's had a good senior season. That leaves Texas with one wide receiver commitment. They didn't take many last year, when Brendan Thompson being the one who's committed this year. So, they've got to go out and find some guys. And yesterday they did offer Savion Red, a receiver / athlete out of Grand Prairie. I talked to Savion's coach today. And he didn't talk a lot about recruiting. I didn't get a lot of that out of him, but he said, hey, man, he's just an ultra competitor. He's really made strides in his game. He's a guy that they line up in the quarterback position, runs the ball probably more than he does receives the ball, but a guy that he thinks is being undervalued and can bring a lot of talent. So you miss on Evan Stewart, you're going to Savion Red. No disrespect to Savion, but I mean, Evan Stewart are the kind of guys that Alabama's and Georgia's and Ohio State's and Clemson's make a living on. And that's why they're the top tier of who they are. So, Texas is going to have to scramble around right now to replace Armani Winfield, who decommitted, find a replacement for Evan Stewart, who they didn't land. Any thoughts on where else they might go? I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, you got Savion's a new offer. They do have Kendrick Laws, a wide receiver DB from Louisiana. He's going to come in for an official visit this weekend. He was in Austin last weekend. So, maybe they can find some solutions there.
Yeah. I mean, they are going in home with Chaz Preston. That kind of seems like
a long shot.
Yeah, a little bit of a stretch to get him out of Louisiana with LSU hiring Brian Kelly. Then you got Alabama and Georgia also involved in that recruitment. But, like you just said, they just offered Ollie Gordon. They just offered Savion Red. So they're obviously, evaluating guys after their senior season, seeing what's still out there. It helps that you have Brendan Thompson in the boat already, one of the most explosive players in the country at the wide receiver position. It seems like they do want more speed. I mean, that's pretty obvious with Kendrick Law. They're recruiting him. Savion Red's pretty fast guy as well. They need some instant impact guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they do go hard after the portal, even more so now that you lose Evan Stewart. Now that, Armani Winfield always told us the right things and stuff.
Yeah. Kind of new though, right?
Yeah. I mean, he kind of went behind the scenes to try to keep that Michigan State visit under wraps. So that should have been a red flag there. So losing those kind of guys, it's pretty bad. I wonder if they try to get, I'm sure they will, but I wonder if they're able to have any success getting any of the Oklahoma guys that have already entered the portal, like Jaden Hazelwood and Theo Weiss, two of the guys that have entered the portal.
You got to think they'll make a run at him, right?
They'll have some stiff competition, but Weiss, he's a Texas kid, from Allen. maybe they can get some pull there. Maybe they can have a connection. But they need
Oh, wait, you're from Allen, right?
Yeah.
Come on, Cole. Hey.
I'll see what I can do.
Texas needs all the help it can give, man. No, we're kidding, people. We don't get involved in that kind of stuff. But,
it would be a package deal.
Yeah, they're going to have to hit some in the portal, but you can get some good talent, especially Oklahoma's situation's unique. I mean, Lincoln Riley leaves, so that's opening the floodgates. But to me, by and large, if you're going to truly build a championship program, it has to be with recruiting elite high school talent, guys like Evan Stewart, Cam Dewberry, we've talked about, Devon Campbell, Kelvin Banks, guys we've talked about week after week. Those are the guys that are, in the long term, going to get you back to consistently winning championships. Like I keep saying that there's a reason Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama are where they are, because they recruit the best of the best every single year. I want to talk about one more decommitment before we talk about the new commitment. Jamarion Miller, the running back from Tyler Legacy. He decommitted on Thanksgiving Day. And I thought when you said Armani Winfield kind of kept that Mississippi State visit secret. Well, so did Jamarion when he visited Alabama. He wanted it kept secret. I think some Alabama reporters saw him at the game, and then it kind of leaked out. It was kind of a weird deal. He came back, and Jamarion doesn't say a whole lot, but his family, people I talked to, said, oh, no, he's still good with Texas. Anytime a recruit takes a private visit like that and tries to keep it under wraps, that's always a big red flag. And I haven't told this story on Orange Bloods. I'll tell it here for the first time. I really knew it was a red flag with Jamarion when it came out that he was on that visit. And I sent a direct message to his mom on Twitter, and his mom and I had communicated previously. It's been several months back when I think he had taken a visit to Oklahoma late in the summer. And I said, I asked her if there was anything for Texas to be worried about. She didn't respond. And then the next day I hit her up and I said, hey, would you prefer Jamarion staying closer to home? Or are you okay if he goes away from home? And she responded to me and said, everything's fine. But she goes, and I'm paraphrasing, is there something y'all are not telling us? And I'm like, whoa, she thinks I'm a coach. So I clearly identified myself again. And I said, hey, just to be clear, I'm just a reporter. I said, that's between you and the coaches. But I said, I'm just here to ask questions and report the news. So clearly they had some reservations with maybe something they were hearing about Texas or some negative recruiting. Then it comes out a week later, and it's been reported this week that maybe Stan Drayton, the Texas running backs coach, is a candidate for Temple, and we've heard maybe Abilene Christian even. So in my back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're hearing that Stan Drayton may not be here next year. This stuff now has bubbled up. I've heard a couple other things, but bottom line is, we just hear things behind the scenes, and I wasn't going to run out and put that out as soon as she said that, because it was an honest mistake on her part, and I didn't want to scream fire in a crowded theater. But I just, I kind of talked to some people about it, and I was like, what am I missing here? Help me dissect this. But I said, clearly she thought I was a coach, and she thinks there's something that this Texas staff is not telling them. And then a couple weeks later, he is off the market and flips his commitment to Alabama. So big loss there. Tremendous running back. We just mentioned Texas offers Ollie Gordon, so that's a potential replacement. D'Anthony Gatson is a running back from Newton that Texas had offered. They really tried to get him before they got Jamarion. Didn't work. He wound up going to USC. Some things got screwed up there. Jamarion gets an offer and commits. I asked Gatson a couple of weeks ago, I said, hey, if Texas comes back to you, he was like, dude, I'll commit before they finish the sentence with an offer. So he could still be an option, but in fact, I think it was Thursday, he told me he has not heard from Texas. So,
and Gordon's a Oklahoma State commit, so they're going to, he's not a given, he's a, U.S. Trinity running back. He's had an amazing career up there, but he's committed somewhere else. So, you said Gatson would be a pretty easy guy to get committed. They might have to work for Ollie Gordon.
And Texas traditionally has had good luck flipping guys from Oklahoma State. Those are battles Texas has probably won more than they've lost on guys they've even come in on late. But
it's not a given.
It's not. And let's be honest, Texas doesn't have a lot of momentum
to play in the playoff, and Texas, had a down year. Maybe he doesn't want to be the second running back in the club.
Yeah. There's a lot for Oklahoma State to sell right now that maybe they didn't have in the past.
Yeah.
Texas doesn't maybe have as much to sell as it has in the past when they've been able to flip some of those guys. So let's get to some positive news finally, now that we're however long into the sucker. Thanksgiving morning, Port Arthur Memorial defensive back Jaylon Guilbeau commits to Texas. We knew it was coming. We had stories written and graphics ready. And I say commits, he recommits to Texas is how I phrased it, because he was a very early Texas commitment, opened it up, commits to TCU, opens it up when Gary Patterson gets let go. We knew right away he was flipping to Texas. We had been told that. So we weren't surprised. I wasn't necessarily expecting it Thanksgiving morning, but thankfully we were kind of armed and ready for that one. But thoughts on Texas getting Jaylon Guilbeau back on the commitment list, excuse me.
Yeah, he's kind of like receiver. They need some DBs. Obviously they are still holding out hope in Denver Harris from North Shore, but Guilbeau, he's a Rivals 250 DB, good player. I feel like if Gary Patterson wants you to play a defensive back, he's pretty good. I mean,
yeah, and he's had a good senior year too.
Yeah, good senior year. He was committed to Texas, like you said beforehand. So I mean, there's already some relationship there. Yeah, I guess it's good to get him back in the boat. You know, they kind of tweeted, the whole staff kind of tweeted some hints about, flipping a guy, and we knew he was going to be one of them. We didn't know if he was going to wait and announce with somebody else, or there's going to be multiple guys, or what happened. But it's good to get him in the boat. They need some DB help in a bad way, and he's a guy that can come in, maybe not make an immediate impact, but be a good player in the program.
Yeah, and like you said, a Rivals 250 player. Talked to some people that have watched him a bunch this year and said, hey, he's really improved this year. His speed was something people had questioned, but people I talked to have seen him a lot and said, nah, I think it's fine. And I've seen him in 7-on-7 and stuff. And I mean, guy looks like he's $1 million. Looks like $1 million. I mean, looks like a future NFL player. And we'll have to see how he develops at Texas. But you're right, they did need some defensive backfield help. So good pickup to get Jaylon Guilbeau back in the fold. Again, I scribbled down some notes on a sheet here before we started. One that we didn't even talk about, Texas suffered a decommitment from linebacker Owen Carey, who was at a Mater Dei out in California. Kind of heard some rumblings recently that he might open up his recruitment. Adam Gorney, our West Coast guy for Rivals, had heard that, hey, there's a chance he might do that. Maybe he's trying to stay closer to home. He announces, I don't remember, the days are a blur. I don't remember which day it was, but he announces his decommitment. So, it never looks good when you lose a commitment there, but based on the things I've heard, and this isn't coming from a Texas source, this is coming from people I've talked to out on the West Coast, and their assumption that this was probably a mutual deal. Owen Carey was a guy that Texas took a bit of a flyer on early. He wasn't the most highly recruited prospect. It just hasn't had the dominant type of senior year you would expect. In fact, I'm not even sure he was starting for Mater Dei. So, I certainly want to say addition by subtraction, because I don't mean to insult the kid, but, losing Jamarion Miller hurts. I don't know that losing Owen Carey, that may be one that Texas can overcome. Thoughts on the impact there, Cole?
Yeah, like you said, he didn't have the kind of season that they were expecting. They're one of his first offers, especially one of his first big offers, I think UCLA and Colorado or a couple of the other programs.
And those are the two I'd watch now if I'm still follow. If I was a fan that was still on to follow.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, not a huge loss. They do need some linebacker help in a big way, though.
And they're talking to Kobe McKenzie. We need to mention Kobe McKenzie's a new name.
Yeah.
Former Oklahoma commitment who decommitted the day Lincoln Riley was announced. And when that all came out, I mean, he's joined I'm sorry to cut you off, Cole, but he joined a lot of the Texas commitments on Instagram Live, and he's throwing up the hook 'em, and there's talk of flip, and I've talked to sources. If Texas offers him, and I think it's going to happen sooner than later, this is not one that Texas is going to drag their feet on. They're going to probably offer him soon, probably this week, or maybe focus elsewhere. If Texas offers Kobe McKenzie, linebacker out of Lubbock, really, really good chance he winds up in this class.
Yeah, and they need linebacker help. Obviously, losing Carey, the position matters more than the player, so to speak. You don't want to lose any linebackers, but if you can get a guy of McKenzie's, caliber, what he brings to the table.
Probably an upgrade, for being honest.
Yeah, he's an upgrade. I believe he's a Rivals 250 member as well. He's from Lubbock, like you said, an Oklahoma commit. was committed to Texas Tech before that. He's a big time linebacker, really good player that Texas can pull him. That should be an upgrade in the class. Like you said, you don't want to call it addition by subtraction, but if you make that trade, the carry for McKenzie, just from player for player standpoint, that you do that every time if you're Texas.
Yeah. Again, lots we're kind of packing in, just rapid fire here. I feel like I've forgotten something, but I think we've touched on all the big notes of late in this. Cole, anything on your head that I've missed out on?
I mean, I know Catch and Onward have covered the Lincoln Riley stuff a lot in one of the other videos, but as far as recruiting goes, Texas fans might want to watch, Devon Campbell and Nato Imazulu, those kind of guys, 2 offensive linemen, a 5-star from Bowie, 4-star from Allen. Just, USC has been a factor in the recruitments for a while now. Kind of, I want to say the hype died off when Clay Helton was let go, but kind of, it seemed like a Texas-Oklahoma battle for both of them, really. A&M was also involved in NATO, but Texas and Oklahoma especially for Devon Campbell. But both of them have already taken official visits to USC. They can take another one now that they have a new head coach. Campbell's already visited there twice. He told me back in September they visited. Him and his family visited for his birthday weekend in LA. So, I mean, that's obviously there's some kind of attraction out there. Told me that LA actually to him feels a lot like Texas. It feels a lot like home to him. And that was beginning of November. So that was way before Lincoln Riley was even an idea to USC. So now that Lincoln Riley's the guy, I believe he's bringing a lot of that staff to USC as well. So I think
even maybe Bill Bedenbaugh, the offensive line, there's talk. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see DJ Campbell back in LA for a second official visit. Wouldn't shock me at all. But
same with Nato. I know it's hard to get a read on him. I know he said he does want to make another, he'll try to make another visit to Texas before the signing period. He wants to make a decision in that early signing day, see what happens there. There's another guy can take another visit to USC. A lot of people around Allen thought that's where he was going to end up, even before the coaching change. So I think that's going to be something worth keeping an eye on if you're a Texas fan. We know how bad Texas needs offensive line help. If they strike out on those 2 guys, it's going to be pretty hard to recover.
Yeah, and speaking with offensive linemen, a person close to Cam Dewberry told me right before we started this recording, Oklahoma, has canceled their in-home visit, which you kind of expect.
Yeah.
But Texas A&M, and I think Ohio State rather will be in this week. And then jumping back to the USC angle, Devin Brown, the Rivals 100 quarterback that Texas is still recruiting, he told a Rivals reporter yesterday, he said, hey, listen, he's a former USC commitment, of course. He said, if Lincoln Riley comes calling, you don't skip that call. You answer that call. So that may throw a wrench into things. We'll see if Lincoln Riley wants to go that route. If not, there's some thought it's probably Texas, Ole Miss, Ohio State. A lot of confidence, I think, in Texas in that race. But USC could shake things up if Lincoln Riley wants to make a run at quarterback. Devin Brown, again, man, a lot of moving parts, a lot going on. Yeah. Probably by the time a lot of people watch this podcast or modcast or whatever, video, whatever we're calling it, if they get to it this evening, things may have changed a couple of times more. Yeah. New names, new change of course.
Social media and Orange Bloods on it.
Yeah, man, just exactly. Hit up Orange Bloods. In fact, I mentioned it last week. We've got a special on Orange Bloods right now. You get your first full 12 months for $20.21. That carries you through all recruiting. It carries you through all the offseason and all the football season next year, of course, basketball season. Lots going on, man. So it's a good time to sign up. Go to Orange Bloods. Go to orangebloods.com on the homepage. You'll see a banner at the top with a red link that has your promo code and everything. But yeah, first year for $20. What's that?
I was just gonna say we have signing day in
2 weeks from tomorrow. Yeah, so everything
games coming up.
Yep,
championship.
Lots going on. So take advantage of that promo code, $20.21 for an entire year. With that, I'm going to wrap this one up, Cole. We'll be back for sure next week, maybe even before if news warrants it. But yeah, man, kind of like you said, a countdown to signing day. We're closing in. Like the videos if you feel like these are worth your time. You're getting some information. Hit the subscribe button. Do everything. You ring the bell for notifications. All that stuff helps us out. This is your orangebloods.com YouTube channel. This is a recruiting video. I'm Jason Suchomel. That's Cole Patterson. We thank you for your time once again, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.